Welcome to today's free training. I'm Jamie from ESL Teacher 365, and today we will be doing a little workshop on how to create a demo and an intro video for online teaching. I would love if you could share in the comments where you're watching from. You can be watching live, or if you're catching up on the replay, I just like to know where everyone is tuning in from. And as we go through today's training, if you have any questions, please write them in the comments. Also, if you're catching up on the replay, I will get to your comments after if you missed the live training. But at the end, I will have time for live Q&A, and I also have some frequently asked questions that I get asked quite a bit. One of them I got from an email this morning, so hopefully this is very helpful for you today. Okay, let's begin our training for today. First of all, we need to know what is the difference between a demo video and an intro video. A demo video is you teaching a sample class. This might be just a sample, a little part of the class, or you may be asked to teach the whole class. It just depends on the company. If you're freelance teaching, you might want to put up a video on your website or on your social media that is an entire class. That's more up to you. But for companies, generally they'll just want to see maybe 3 to 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes of a demo lesson for this demo video. Always check the guidelines. You want to make sure that your video is within their guidelines because they can reject you if it's too short or if it's too long. Each company and marketplace is different, so pay attention to all of those details. And the weird thing is that you may be asked to teach pretend students, and this can get very awkward. What you want to do is, before you teach your demo lesson, choose some fake names, and you will pretend to call on these students and wait for their response. And it is a little bit weird, but most companies, they just want to kind of see what it would be like, what your teaching style is like. And in some cases, you might be doing a live demo with a company. And so maybe you do have students, or maybe you have someone from HR who's pretending to be a student. But generally, for a demo video, you have to pretend that you have students. So I think when I've done these, I usually choose like 3 to 4 names and use those as my pretend students. The goal of your demo video is for the company or the marketplace to see your teaching style, get an idea of your accent, how you hold yourself in the online classroom, and also for freelancing, if you have a demo video, you can also show what an actual class with you is like. And again, your student gets kind of a feel for what kind of a teacher you are. Do you like to make jokes? Are you very patient? Whatever your style is. As far as what to teach, you may be provided with lesson materials. This is very common for online ESL companies. They will either send over some slides that you can practice with, or they'll give you some information of kind of common lessons that they have you teach. But if you're applying to teach on a marketplace or you're a freelancer, you often need to create your own lessons. And I will share kind of my experience with these videos with materials versus creating my own classes and what that was like. I'll share that a little bit later. And do think of this demo video as a job interview. They really want to see your personality. They want to see that you're passionate for what you're doing. So treat it as if it were an interview. So that's the demo lesson. Remember, kind of a sample of a class. For an intro video, this is where you're sharing your teaching experience, your area of expertise, maybe your interests with potential students, your qualifications. It's more of an introduction to you as a teacher. Companies may use this video as part of the application and interview process, and they could also be posting this video up on their marketplace. So when I make a video for something like Preply, that video I use for my application, but I also get that video posted up to attract potential students. So you need to make sure that you know where this video is going. Is it only for the hiring process, or is it also going to be posted on that marketplace? You can also do this as a freelancer. Have an intro video on your website, on your social media, on YouTube, so that people can know a bit about your qualifications, who you are, what types of classes you offer. And one thing that's very, very important, write this down if you're watching. You need to think about who is watching this video. And if it's potential students, you need to grade your language. That means if you are planning on teaching beginners, you don't want to have very complicated language in your intro video. If you're teaching higher levels, that's fine. But think about your vocabulary, your grammar, and think about who you are trying to teach. I don't recommend going on marketplaces or being a freelance teacher and saying, I teach all levels, I teach all ages. It's better if you have a specific niche in mind. So again, if you plan on teaching beginners, speak slowly, speak clearly, think about your word choice. And I personally teach test prep English. I do work with more intermediate and advanced levels, so I know that I can speak a little bit faster. I can use more complicated grammar and vocabulary. I don't want to make it too simple because then I'm not attracting those students that are ready to really improve their English. So be careful with that. This video, like I said, is put on those online teaching marketplaces. It's kind of a little promo that they can get to know you beyond just reading the information on your profile, and keep your target student in mind. Also, intro videos typically have time limits, just like demo videos. So it might be 3 to 5 minutes, it might be 1 minute. It's really up to the company or marketplace to put that limit. But again, if you're freelance teaching, you can speak as long as you want, but because of short attention spans these days, I do recommend keeping it maybe, 3 to 4 minutes around that mark. Okay, let's do a little bit about how to actually create these videos. We'll start with the demo video and kind of go step by step, and I'll be sharing a lot of tips and tricks as we go. So when you're doing a demo lesson, remember that that is the one where you're doing a sample lesson. You need to have a lesson plan, just like any other class that you're teaching. Even if it's just a sample of the lesson, you want to have a lesson plan for it. So write it out, and you need to follow the instructions of the company or marketplace carefully. They will tell you what to include in this lesson. For example, if you have to teach kids, often they say that you need to include props or you need to include a song. You need to make sure that you have included that in your lesson plan so that you include it in your demo video. You do want to try and make it as interactive as possible. Even though we're teaching online, you can still use different props. You can use a whiteboard, you can use flashcards. Obviously, keep your ideal student in mind. If you're teaching kids, it will need to be a lot more animated and colorful. If you're teaching older students, then maybe you can use some images, things like that. If you're teaching your fake students, now is when you choose the names that you're going to use. So you have your lesson plan, you have everything prepared, you have those fake names. The next step is to set up your equipment, and we will talk about this in a bit of detail. First of all, do you want to film on your phone? Do you have a webcam? Do you have a camera that's connected to your laptop that's built in? What are you going to use? So for your phone, when you're using your phone, never film vertically. You always want to film horizontally, and you want to put your phone on a stable surface. I have looked through marketplaces like Preply and companies like Cambly, and there are so many videos where either the person is holding up their phone or it's shaky. So if you have a tripod, obviously that's the best choice. If you don't, you can just put your phone up on a shelf and make sure it is at your eye line. And so it's not up too high, not too low. Have it at your eye line and make sure that it looks good. Also, nowadays, you can get these little sticky, I think it's called like Octo Buddy, and you can just stick this on a mirror, on a wall, on a door, whatever you want to do, and that is also a nice stable surface. The next thing to consider is, does the company have a way to record the video directly on the application? You will find that some companies and marketplaces, they have their own kind of built-in camera, and it will connect to your computer's camera and you can film your video that way. I don't recommend this. If they have a way to upload your own link, I always think you should choose that option because then you can film it on your phone. If you need to refilm it, it's a lot easier. It does take a little bit of extra work to get it from your phone to that link and everything, but it's definitely worth it. But if you just don't want to deal with kind of all the links and that, some of these applications, you can record your video right on the application. Next is your lighting, your sound, and your background. So for the lighting, if you don't have professional lights, you can just go and sit in front of natural light, a window, for example. If you are in a place that a window just isn't going to work, try and get a small ring light that at least illuminates your face or some sort of lamps. I personally have a box light. So a box light is quite big, but it really diffuses the light. And I like this for online teaching because it's not as bright as a ring light. And I get migraines, so any sort of bright lights are a little bit too much for me, even those small little ring lights. So there are a lot of different lights that you can get on Amazon that aren't very expensive, and I do have some recommendations. I will put that link in after the video, and you can find some of my equipment recommendations down below. For your sound, you need to have some sort of microphone. And this is because you might have some background noise. Also, it can be very difficult sometimes if your speakers and microphones are far away or part of your computer. They might not get your sounds correct. And obviously, you're trying to teach a language. You need to have proper pronunciation, and your students need to be able to hear all of the sounds. So what you can do is, the cheapest way to do this is to get a headset with a little attached microphone. And they have these for not very much. That's probably the easiest way. I personally use like a little clip-on microphone from Rode, and I do love this for online teaching. There's also little stand-up microphones that are USB that you can plug in, but the main idea is to have some sort of microphone so that everything is clear. Whoever's hiring you can hear you, whoever your students are can hear you. Just make sure you have a microphone. And for your background, think about who you're teaching. If you're applying to teach kids, you might want to have some posters or something a bit more colorful in the background, maybe have more focus on props and things like that. If you're teaching business English, if you're teaching adults, you can have some shelves in the background, a blank wall, something quite simple. The main idea is you don't want to have anyone walking behind you. You don't want any sort of distractions like that. You don't want to show like your bedroom, your kitchen, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you have a nice, quiet space for your online teaching. Another thing that can help with sound is reducing the echo by placing blankets. I use yoga mats, pillows on the floor. If you have tile, my old house had tile in it, so I would kind of just cover it with blankets and pillows and yoga mats, and that does help reduce that echo quite a bit for your video. The next step when creating your demo video is to practice. And you want to practice your lesson several times until it becomes natural. Then record yourself and watch the recording that's when you're going to check, is my lighting okay? Is my sound okay? Is there anything distracting in the background? Is my camera moving around? And also check the timing. Remember that they will give you a time limit, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. You can check your recording. Are you doing the lesson? Is it too short? Is it too long? And for this, you want to be as natural as possible. You don't want to read from a script or have it memorized and be awkward, but you do want to practice. And I will be sharing what happened when I didn't practice enough with one of these companies. Just a top tip. If your video quality, like maybe the lighting, the sound, it's shaking, all of this, if it's bad, they might automatically reject you. So do take the time to really make sure that your video is quality, everything is good. So watch those recordings before you submit them. Okay, I will share what happened when I applied for a company and what happened when I applied for a marketplace. I applied to teach on GoGo Kid very shortly before it was later shut down. You can no longer work there. And the lesson materials were provided. So they provided you with some slides. I watched some information on like how to deliver the lesson, some tips. There were a lot of videos from other teachers on how to pass a demo lesson. TPR was required. So that's total physical response. So I had to do some actions to go along with some of the words and I was teaching them. I did look at some examples. I did not practice enough. I thought, okay, I've taught kids for years. This will be easy. I can do this, no problem. I don't really need to practice. I got rejected. So don't do what I did. Practice, practice, practice until you're comfortable with it. I thought, oh, I'll just practice it twice and go through with it. Didn't work. So I didn't apply again because then it got shut down very shortly after that. But for Outschool, this was different. This is a marketplace and you have to create the lesson. So fun fact, I teach beginner ballet on Outschool, but that's not what I did for my application. I originally wanted to teach pre-reading skills for kindergarten students on Outschool. So I did like a sound treasure hunt. So I created this lesson. I had like a little pirate puppet that I used. I had some treasure. They got sent a treasure map, and then we went through the different sounds. They had to pronounce them, all of that stuff. So I had to come up with the lesson. They're not giving you any materials for this lesson. That's pretty common for marketplaces. And I only showed a sample of the lesson. So I pretended that we had already found our first letter sound and we were looking for the next two. So I did a little snapshot of that lesson. I really kept my ideal student in mind. If this was a kindergarten student, how would I speak with them? What kind of things would they enjoy? And I passed that demo lesson. So those are two examples of different demo lessons. Okay, for recording, I suggest recording it until you're happy with it, but don't worry about it being perfect. It can be very overwhelming if you're just recording this video again and again and again. It is exhausting. So get to a point where you're happy with it. It might not be perfect, but that's okay. If you want to share your screen while teaching, like I mentioned with teaching adults, maybe you don't want to use props, but you want to use maybe an image and have them talk about it or use it for a speaking activity, you can use the free version of Zoom to record your video and you can share your screen when doing that. So you can record everything in Zoom and then you can save that link, upload it to YouTube as an unlisted video, and then share that link on one of these sites that you're applying to. You can also film on your phone, of course, and if you want a free way to edit the clips together, you can use Canva. I do have a video on my channel about how to create an intro video using Canva, so you can watch that one if you're not sure how to do the editing. For editing and uploading, if you recorded it directly through the application, for example, on Preply or on Cambly, you can just record it right in there and just submit it. So if you don't want to deal with links, just record it within that platform. If you need to edit your video at all, I have done this for several of my intro and demo videos. Maybe I just wanted to make some cuts. You can use iMovie for free if you have a Mac. Canva and DaVinci Resolve are free as well. And you can also just hire someone from Fiverr, which is like a freelancer site. If you don't want to deal with editing, just send them the clips and have them edit it for you. Obviously, this would be paid. And some of these applications will ask for your video to be compressed. What this means is maybe your file is quite big and you can't submit it if it's that big. It needs to be a smaller file. So you can just Google video compressor free, and there's a bunch of them online. Just upload your link and it will compress your video, or upload your file and it will compress it down. Okay, so that was our demo video. For our intro video, we don't have a lesson plan for this, right? So our intro video is you presenting yourself, your qualifications, where you're from, what your classes are like, and we'll go over a little sample script that you can swipe from me. So first, read all the instructions carefully. With all of these, always read the instructions carefully, and they will tell you what information you need to include. For example, some of them do not want you to give your last name. They say only provide us with your first name. So if you give your last name in your intro video, they might automatically reject you. So pay attention to what they're asking for. They might ask for your qualifications, your teaching experience. They could ask for your interests. They could ask for what your specialty is. So each marketplace, each company is going to be completely different. I do recommend writing out a script. You want to use this as a guide, so maybe just writing some bullet points instead of full sentences. And you don't want to memorize this. You don't want to sound like a robot, but it is helpful to have it as a guide so that you know that you have included everything that you need to include. Here is our sample script. So take a screenshot, write this down. This is kind of a basic one that is common to some of these companies and marketplaces that I've applied to. Obviously, look at their actual one, but if you're also a freelance teacher, you can steal this one. Introduce yourself. So your name, where you're from, talk about your qualifications and experience. So that would mean any degrees that you have, your TEFL certificate, any teaching experience that you've had, even if you haven't taught before, if you've done tutoring, if you want to teach kids, maybe if you've done babysitting, coaching, mentoring, any of that kind of stuff. If you are specialized, if you have test prep experience, for example, talk about how many students that you've helped prepare for exams. If you're interested in medical English and you're a doctor, now is the time to mention that. So just think about what you want to teach and how you are qualified for that. Then you want to take your students on a little bit of a journey to imagine what your classes are like. So paint a picture for them. What is it like to take your class? Are you using a lot of different technology? Do you like to use games if you're teaching kids? If you're teaching adult students, like for my test prep students, I mention how I'm going to be using specific materials to help them feel confident when they take the exam. If it is business English, what kind of skills can they learn? So you want to talk about what your class is like, maybe the structure, but also what they can achieve, what they can do, where they will be after working with you. So paint that picture for them. You can also share your teaching philosophy. How do you include everyone in the class? Maybe you're doing one-on-one, so that would be a little bit different. Anything that you want to mention there. And then the most important thing is a strong call to action. You want just one thing. So do you want your students to book a class with you? Do you want them to email you? Do you want them to fill out a survey? choose one call to action. If you're on a marketplace or on a company, it will be book a class with me. If this sounds like the perfect class for you, then book a class with me today, whatever you want to say. If it's a freelance video for your website, you might say, when you're ready to get started, fill out my survey and I will email you back, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you have one call to action. People need to be told what to do or they don't do anything, and that it's nice and clear and not confusing. The rest of the process for making this intro video will be the same with the filming, checking your lights, checking the sound, practicing, making sure that everything's good, all of that. You can always upload it to YouTube and then embed that on your website, or you can share it on social media. You can use something like Canva. Just look on YouTube. There's lots of tutorials on how to make different videos. Okay, if you liked today's training, if this was helpful for you, a lot of this is taken from one of the days of my course, which is called Teach Online in 10 Days. This is an on-demand mini course for beginners. There are 10 lessons for the 10 days, and you do get lifetime access plus any updates when I update the course. There's also a jobs guide Excel sheet that you'll get access to with information on over 20 different online teaching jobs. So if you like today's training, you'd like to learn more with me, you are new to online teaching, I do have a special deal for you today. You can go to eslteacher365.com/course and use the code LIVE25 for 25% off the course. But I am limiting this to the first 25 teachers. So if you are watching live and you're interested, I would grab this now. If you're catching up on the replay, you can try it and see if there's any left for you. But I hope that you enjoy this course. Okay, let's get into some questions. So if you are watching live, you have questions about how to make intro videos or demo videos, share them with me in the comments. I will go through some frequently asked questions as well. And if you're catching up, leave your comments too, leave your questions, and I'm always in my comments answering them pretty much every day. All right. So let's get to the frequently asked questions, and then that will give you time if you're watching live to add any questions that you have. Okay. Here we go. So let's do this. What if I'm not provided with a lesson to teach? A lot of these marketplaces are not going to provide you with any materials for a demo lesson, but then again, they might not all be asking for a demo lesson. They usually ask for an intro lesson. So when I had to do a demo lesson, but it was a marketplace, was Outschool. And I just had to make up my own lesson. You do need to be a little bit careful with copyright. Basically, if you didn't create it, you need to have permission to use the materials. And there's also, fair use and all of that kind of stuff, but it can get a little tricky. So I suggest if you need to create your own materials, go on Canva, create a little lesson with some slides, and you can use that for your demo video. Do I need a microphone? Yes. You need a microphone because A, a lot of these companies require you to have one, so they won't hire you if you don't have one. And B, it's going to reduce the sound in the background if there's any sort of noise going on. And also, when you are actually teaching, it's better for your students because they can hear the correct pronunciation. So it's very important to get that microphone. What if my application gets rejected? So I mentioned that my Go-Go Kids application got rejected. I could have, but I didn't because it closed down. I could have applied again. Some companies and marketplaces will allow you to apply again if you've been rejected, but they may have a limit. With Outschool, I believe you can apply 3 times. With Cambly, they say that if you haven't heard back within a week, that you need to redo your video, redo your application, and apply again. So just keep applying until you can't. It's always best to work for more than one online company or marketplace, just because there are a lot of changes. This will help you have a fuller schedule if you're working for multiple companies and marketplaces. Okay. All right. Let's see what else. Okay, we have a question coming in from Bluey Barnes. Hi, Jamie. My question is not specifically relevant to this great video. That's okay. I can answer anything. I'm also 55. I'm almost 55, but a young 54 and in good shape. With this in mind, is it pointless me taking the online CELTA at this age? Okay, good question. If you want to teach abroad, it can be more limiting because there are age restrictions. Like some countries limit you at 55 or at 60, but other countries, there are no age restrictions. So if you want to teach abroad, you just have to look carefully at which countries you're going to be eligible for, which visas you're going to be eligible for. If you want to teach online, there's not really any restrictions for that, but there is some ageism when it comes to hiring. So some companies, I would say, especially companies that cater towards Asian students, they typically like to hire the younger teachers. But if you're teaching European students, you're teaching Latin American students, sometimes age is seen as that you're wiser, you've lived your life, you know more things, and that can be a good thing. So I would say if you want to teach and you know you want to teach, then go for it, and there you'll always find a way. Forgot to mention you'll be teaching online. Yeah, that's fine. I would say go for it. Yeah, and the best thing too is when you're freelance online teaching, there's no restrictions. You don't need a degree. You don't really need anything. It's just you. So there's no issue there. Okay, let's get to some more questions. So where can I see examples of demo videos, of these intro videos, those kinds of things? I have an intro video for Cambly, and I have an intro video for Preply on my channel. So if you search ESL Teacher 365 Preply or Cambly, I have videos up on the application process. And so you can see exactly the videos that I use to get hired on those sites. For demo videos, I don't think I ever made one about my Outschool one. So maybe I should do that. But you can also just search on YouTube. There's a lot of different teachers. So if you want to apply to a specific company, you could do Outschool demo video example, search that on YouTube, and I'm sure you'll find some examples. How can I feel confident on camera? This question came through in an email to me this morning, and I hear this a lot. It's like, oh, I get on camera and I'm trying to make these videos and I feel so awkward. So it's all about practice. My first videos on YouTube, you can search them up, they're horrible. It just takes practice, and yeah, not practice makes perfect, but practice makes you feel better and more confident. And you can also imagine that you're speaking to one person. So imagine that your camera behind them is your ideal student, and just focus on you being able to help them. Watching back your footage also helps as well. You can see if you're doing anything weird. Um, and yeah, just practice and it will get easier, I promise. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, John says, I'm in the same boat, Bluey. I'm in my 50s and planning on teaching in Spain, hoping I won't run into ageism. For Spain, a lot of the language assistant programs, their age limit is 60. So you've got time still to teach in Spain. I loved teaching in Spain. I taught there for 5 years. I definitely recommend it. Okay. Let's see, here we go. What if I don't have teaching experience? I'm working with a coaching client right now who is trying to make some of these intro and demo videos, but um, doesn't have as much teaching experience. And so it's a little bit hard of how do I make an intro video talking about my experience if I don't have any. So you can either kind of start now, start volunteering, doing some tutoring locally, or you can talk about your teaching practicum. You can also talk about your skills rather than your experience. So what kind of a teacher are you? What is your teaching philosophy? It is a little bit tricky if they're asking for you to talk about your experience, but you don't have any yet. But just get a little bit creative with that one. And let's see, check any more questions. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So if you have any other questions, just send them on through. All right. Who will see my video? Sometimes for these applications, your video will be seen by whoever is hiring, and then it will never be seen again. For other places, this video will be posted on the website. So you'll have a profile, it'll have your name, maybe a picture of you, information about your qualifications. You get to write some information about what you offer, and then this video will go up as your intro video or as your demo video. So it's important to know when you're applying, where is this video going? Who is going to see it? You know, is it going to be on there forever? All of that. Okay. Here we go. Another question. Is volunteering to teach migrants something that you can put on your resume? Absolutely. So it doesn't have to be paid. If you have a lot of volunteer experience, that is perfect. That is a lot of the online companies, they're not really as picky. I would say maybe when teaching abroad, they might ask for previous experience in a school setting, but typically for online teaching, they aren't as picky. Okay, well, I hope that this was helpful for you today. And thank you very much for joining today. Again, if you have any questions, you can always send me an email, which is jamie@eslteacher365.com. If you would like help getting started teaching abroad or online, I do have a survey that you can fill out. I've had almost 5,000 teachers fill it out. We're getting very close to that number. So I send you kind of personalized links and tips and tricks based on your survey. So do fill that out if you need some help. And remember that we have a special going on with my online teaching mini course, which is for beginners. You'll learn how to teach on marketplaces, companies, and freelance teaching, how to get started, what you need, all that kind of stuff. And you can use the code LIVE25 to get 25% off, limited to the first 25 teachers. So try and snatch that up. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. And if you have any requests for future live videos, you can also leave those in the comments. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, morning, evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining. Bye.